Mina Aissatou Smile Cisse, and today's here at Network Canada Ministry of Information and Communication concerning the press briefing where the Ministry of Information and Communication call. Where they go inside the hall now, outside the briefing will take place.
Some colleagues in your respective forum, when I sent the message for today's press briefing, some people made a lot of comments. Oh, things are so many issues. Oh, okay, yes, that. But I'm very appreciative that you made it up, and I still expect more to come. Normally, really, press briefings can be spontaneous as the issues emerge. But the reason for why you are here today will be explained by the Honorable Deputy Minister of Information and Communications, why you were called today on a Wednesday instead of Thursday. So on this note, I'd like now to, it's going to be very brief, this press briefing, and so we'll invite the Deputy Minister just for a few pointers of several activities from last weekend to this time, and then after that she'll tell us why really we are here today. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mr. Minister and colleagues in the media, and welcome to this press briefing. Today, of course, is Wednesday, and we normally hold these briefings on Thursday. But you will get to know why we are meeting here today, being Wednesday, as we progress into this press conference. We continue. For our weekly update, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio yesterday informed the World Bank Country Director for Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Ghana, Pierre-Frank Laporte, that he has been working very hard in preparedness to tackle any possible coronavirus outbreak and has put quite a lot in place to keep the country safe. President Bio made this disclosure during his engagement with the World Bank envoy at State House in Freetown. He further stated that using the experience from the Ebola outbreak, the country has put in place a lot of precautionary measures to combat the coronavirus in the event it breaks out in Sierra Leone. In another related engagement, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio visited communities with neighboring Guinea over the weekend following a day-long coronavirus preparedness assessment that started last Tuesday at the Infectious Disease Prevention Center in Freetown. The tour is part of a series of planned efforts by the government to assess and determine the country's level of preparedness to tackle any possible case of coronavirus. President Bio admonished authorities manning the border to be vigilant, as the border areas are very critical and are the main entry points into the country. In commemorating this year's International Women's Day, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio says that gender is on the schedule of his government, noting that he is of the notion that Sierra Leone can only develop its human capital with women on board. He stated that women constitute 51% of our population. My government is obligated to include, empower, and promote women to escape cycles of poverty and powerlessness, President Bio affirmed. The Ministry of Information and Communications and its sector partners, NATCOM, held a dialogue meeting with mobile network operators in the country to better inform them about the Finance Act 2020 and map the way forward in providing quality services at affordable tariffs that will enhance the common good for their respective subscribers. According to the Minister of Information and Communications, Mohammed Rahman Souari, MNOs were encouraged to implement the provisions of the Financial Act 2020 and to adequately inform their customers about their promotions accordingly in accordance with the Financial Act 2020. Well, this morning we convened this press conference because, like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of things we need to talk about, and there have been several activities within the close of last week and the course of this week. Notwithstanding numerous activities and events, it will interest you to note that we have cut short the usual press briefing to today and time because the ministry has several other outreach activities this week, including a regional press briefing in Makeni, and Kenema, where we'll be meeting as a sector in our retreat. However, we cannot also ignore the fact that there are several concerns from members of the public regarding the implementation of the Financial Act 2020 by MNOs, for which citizens were misinformed about promotions and other benefits. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a result of this, we have invited you here, and the Minister of Information will come up to talk to us about this issue and other issues that came up during the course of this week. Mr. Minister. Okay, so we want to, before I invite the Minister, let me call on Mr. Jallo. We have a sector retreat in Kenema, which starts tomorrow, and I'd like to invite Mr. Mohammed Momini Jallo to come and update members of the press about this retreat.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Good morning, all. As you are all aware, sometimes back, the government held a cabinet retreat at the Freetown International Conference Center, and where His Excellency declared the year 2020 as a year of delivery. So, as a very responsive ministry, the ministry immediately set in motion how do we prepare ourselves to meet the policy directive from the cabinet retreat. So one of the things that we agreed on was we had initially planned for a retreat that was postponed severally, but we saw the opportunity as a way of engaging the sector so that we clearly agree on the deliverables that can be in the minister's what we are now calling the Ministerial Joint Action Plan for 2020 in a way of addressing His Excellency's call for the year of delivery. So in pursuit of that, and also in fulfillment of ensuring that the minister's ministerial performance contract is also achievable, the ministry is convening all sector players to 3 days retreat at the Douala Hotel in Kenema to actually, have very concrete discussion around the burning issues in the sector. So the objective of the retreat, one, is for the minister to convey his medium-term strategic goals and objectives for the sector, and as well as to initiate dialogue on the feasible approaches and individual activities to be undertaken to achieve these objectives and goals. Also to formulate consensus on the objective to be pursued and the roadmap for achieving this objective, as well as to develop effective coordination mechanism that is underpinned by consultation and information sharing. So basically, all sector players, the mobile network operators, ISP, and those other institutions under the statutory supervision of the ministry will be in Kenema. So some of the issues that we'll be discussing will be around, one, how do we increase and improve the quality of telecom services? How do we broaden and deepen the industry in terms of product? How do we increase the product portfolio? Currently, you agree with me that our service portfolio is mostly around voice and internet access. But as a sector, we want to ensure that we increase the service portfolio so that people can benefit from the innovative powers of digital technology. The other thing that we'll be also discussing with the service providers will border around tariffs and overall fiscal regime faced by the service providers. That will discuss issues around tax in the sector, etc., etc. We'll also be looking at cyber security and effort to mitigate national risk, cyber risk, and of course, sector coordination are some of the issues that will be discussed in Kenema. So the overall objective would be to come out with what we'll be calling a ministerial action plan, and activities in that plan will be co-owned by not only the ministry but by sector players. For instance, if we agree to take concrete steps to increase coverage, penetration, this ministry will not be the one that will be implementing the activity. It will be the MNO. That is why we want to sit with them and agree on, for instance, how do we take, for instance, 4G beyond Freetown? most of the other areas you go there, you are not able to access 4G services. So those are some of the issues that we will be discussing in Kenema, and we want to agree on concrete indicators and numbers. For instance, we are now currently putting together statistics in the sector so that when we go there, we first look at our baseline. Where are we now in the sector in terms of penetration, in terms of geographic coverage, in terms of service portfolio, and then we'll now start setting ourselves timelines and tangible, achievable goals and objectives. So in brief, this is what the sector retreat will be about in Kenema, and like I said, the thematic areas will be on access, market issues, tariff and fiscal regime, cybersecurity, sector coordination. So in brief, that is what the sector retreat will be about in Kenema. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mumini Jalo. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Deputy Director General of NATCOM, Mr. Daniel Kaitibi, and the Deputy Director Consumer and Industry Affairs, Smart Kokofele, and of course, Abbas, also from NATCOM. They are all here this morning to be a part of this particular press conference. So like I mentioned earlier, yesterday, the Ministry of Information and Communications had a very fruitful meeting, of course, in partnership with NATCOM and the MNOs, to discuss the Financial Act of 2020, to get the MNOs to be better informed about the content of this particular act, and of course, map the way forward in providing quality services at affordable rates for their respective consumers. Now, rumors have been making the rounds that as a result of this, MNOs have suspended, their promotions and other benefits that us, the consumers, used to enjoy. But we had a meeting yesterday, and of course, the Minister of Information will come up to tell us more about this meeting and where we are at as a sector as far as these issues are concerned. So, Mr. Minister, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure to have you here so that we can jaw around the issues that have made the news headlines, those that should make the news headlines, those that are of pertinence to the people of Sierra Leone. So it's important. Today's press conference is a demonstration of, the respect we have for the Sierra Leone media. Otherwise, we at the same time be to have a similar press conference in Makeni. We could simply have shut this down. Tomorrow we are in Kenema for the sector retreat like you heard from Mr. Jalo. But we believe this is a partnership, and for successful partnerships, mutual trust and respect is key. It's important. We don't want to see you believe that we can unilaterally wake up one morning and shut out a press conference that has otherwise become a permanent feature of the calendar. So we appreciate the fact that you still found time to come, even though it's not the normal schedule. So in the last couple of days, there have been a lot of, concerns from members of the public. As a government that really, truly, sincerely, and honestly cares, we cannot pretend not to have heard the cries of the people. But just to let you know, even before you started crying, we heard you. When I took over the leadership of this ministry in 2018, one of my first concrete actions was to convene the sector to a retreat at Lakar. During that retreat, I asked key and critical questions of the sector players. What is the current cost structure when it comes to telcos, the telephone companies? How can we ameliorate the current pricing situation in the sector? So that was when I got to know the cost structures. There was, for example, a 7 cent for interconnection between and amongst mobile phone companies. Of that 7 cent, NATCOM used to take home 2 cents. So in the course of the discussions, I told them, in the interest of our people, government is quite happy, willing to let go NATCOM's 2 cents, right? Just so that it could trickle down positively to the end users of services. We did that. We implemented that in the hope that the mobile phone companies too will do. Well, after long periods of negotiations, we ended up agreeing a harmonization of tariffs across mobile phone companies. Before then, you find out if you did cross calls, Ethernet calls, we call it, you paid 690 leons. 90 leons, for example, if you called from Africell to Orange, Orange from Africell. We harmonize that. That is why today cross calls don't make any difference. It's still 650 across the board. So just before you begin to act, we have shown concern for the people of Sierra Leone. We are not a money-making machine. We are about improving the quality of life of our people. That was the first interventions we did. Then come back. We have been discussing about mobile termination rates. Just to let you understand, mobile termination rate is the bulk purchase. That is how mobile phone companies trade amongst themselves. That is the wholesale price for minutes that they buy to each other, 470 cents. That is how Africell buys it to Orange. That is how Orange buys it to Africell. That is how QCell buys it. So that is it. So we are merely saying, as a sector, the Telecommunications Act, Section 52 of the Telecommunications Act is very clear. You don't sell below the production cost, which in this case is 470 leons, as per the Telecommunications Act, a copy of which I have here. I could pass them around for you to see, or I'm going to challenge you. I could see a lot of up and coming journalists here who are interested in reading, exploring, and pushing the boundaries. So if you read the Telecommunications Act, National Telecommunications Act 2006 as amended, Section 52 speaks to that. You can read Section 53, 54, 55. All of those effusively speak to that. We have had this great fallout as a result of that. But just to clarify a few misconceptions, last I took one of the players is relatively new. When I took over the leadership of this ministry, I vowed I will not preside the death of any business in this sector. I will not preside over the death of any mobile network operator, because I have seen over the years many have come, could not thrive, they collapse with far-reaching consequences on Sierra Leonean employees in those companies, implications for government revenue. So I took a personal vow to ensure that we as government will do everything and anything under the sun to ensure that all the players stay and do business to the best of their abilities. So last year, when QCell came in, because we removed the 2 cents, that was a stabilizing factor. Instead of them paying 7 cents, they now pay a reduced price. 2 cents might look like 2 cents, but when it's cumulative over a period, my dear brothers and sisters, that's quite a huge amount of money. Then we'll move from there. It's always been in the law that promotioners could be taxed, are also taxable, GST, right? That's always been in the laws. But here was a new entrant just entering the market last year. I stood with them, we negotiated very hard with the Ministry of Finance, with the National Revenue Authority, and in the end, His Excellency said, look, we have to allow a new player some breathing space, some soft landing. So that's why we did not charge GST last year on all telecommunications. What happened was that when it was time for returns, the fortunes, the tax returns plummeted to an all-time low for all of them. Right? I am not going to lead you into why that could have happened. Right? But that was what happened because no GST was charged. Some companies returned as much as 40% on promotionals. Right? So because of that, to ensure that that is remedied, the Ministry of Finance, following consultations again with the mobile phone companies themselves and all players, agreed to put a cap. They agreed to put a cap to promotionals at 10%, which means you can promote for as much as you want, but 10% of it will be free. It will not be GST billed. Anything above that will now be taxed at 650 leons. Why 650 leons? Because last year, right, there was no floor. That was the ceiling that was used, 650. Remember, I took you through that. 650 was the ceiling that was being used. So NRA, our Ministry of Finance said, okay, so if anybody trades in excess, promotionals in excess of 10%, we will use 650 to calculate your GST charges, right? But in the meantime, we also, because there were issues around the NATCOM Act, mixed signals in the sector, NATCOM board agreed, following extensive consultations with the players, a 590 leones floor, right? To sanitize the market so that there are no price wars. It's easy for NATCOM or for the NRA, instead of charging 650 leones as in the Finance Act, they could now charge a lower 590, right? So this is what we have done. I mean, legitimate concerns were raised by members of the public, many of whom are used to benefiting from promotionals, which I also do, right? I don't have unlimited credits on my phone. I buy credits as much as you all do. I don't have a mobile company supplementing me, right? Just to let us know. For some of you who are my friends, sometimes probably I'm talking to you occasionally, my credit finishes. Yeah, because I also don't have limitless things. Yeah, so this is the situation we have. Because, we had a lot of concerns from members of the public, so we summoned the mobile phone companies here. Yesterday morning, that was the first order of business I had. We brought NATCOM here, the mobile network operators. We sat, we clearly agreed, sought a clear roadmap to resolving this thing so that, we stop doing things in a knee-jerk way, right? Because this is what has plagued the sector since inception, right? There are no scientific means of pricing. Somebody wakes up in the morning, right? You think of any number. We don't think that is helpful for the sector. So we have agreed yesterday during our meeting that number one, we will now undertake a cost structure, a scientific cost structural analysis of the sector so that we are able to know what a fair pricing will be for members of the public, enough for telcos to make profit, but at the same time not exploitative of members of the public. So we have given ourselves a 90 days period, right? The study is going to be undertaken. The same 90 days, we are going to engage with the Ministry of Finance and NRA. We are going to deepen the engagement because the president has particularly called for this. He does not want any fallout out of this. He wants a decorous sector that is predictable, regulatory-wise, that will attract more investment into the sector by existing and prospective players. So as a result of that, yesterday we set up a committee, point number 2, comprising all of the telecommunications companies, NATCOM, and the Ministry of Finance. We forgot to add civil society, so I'm also going to use ministerial order number 1 to bring in civil society. To bring in civil society so that we'll have a rounded view. Mr. Jallo, take a note, right? We are bringing in civil society on board that thing because it's very important that we have this. That is the kind of thing that's happening in the petroleum sector. They have the flat price and all of this. It's already set. It's a formula. Once prices move, you clearly know it's time to either increase or reduce prices. We're going to devise the same thing in the telecommunications sector so that it is not left to the whims and caprices of the leadership at any one point in time. We want to get more scientific. So my only plea to all of you is bear with us. 90 days is not forever. We have said within 90 days, we will resolve all current and emerging problems in the sector as it relates to consumer pricing and related things. It's important to note at this point that promotions will continue, but on a limited basis. Up to 10% will still be tax-free. Anything above that will be an issue between the telcos and the taxmen. Those are some of the decisions we took yesterday. In the meantime, the current regime stays. But I'm pretty confident that following this round of conversations and the scientific cost study we will be undertaking, I am sure we will emerge all being winners. The telcos, the people of Sierra Leone, and government of Sierra Leone. Right? So that is it about the telco thing. Right. Let us talk about, we already discussed link of wing, I mean, there are no residual issues emanating from that. That is laid to rest. Government position is clear now on this matter. We are continuing to fund the current students who are there, but at the existing Sierra Leone government grant and aid rates paid to students in public universities. I mean, that's the position of government. We have established the fact that this was a complete rip-off. It was a contract, an MOU with, fingerprints, suspicious fingerprints all over it. But because this government is committed to human capital development and these are Sierra Leoneans who could not have left there in the lodge, I understand that the proprietors of Linkock Wing University are in country to engage. Okay, so we look forward to those engagements. I hope at the end of the day we all win. The current students and prospective students of Lincoln we win too. I mean, this is what governance is all about. We reach win-win compromises. We have made concessions. We expect the other side to do same in the best interest of the students. Yeah. Coronavirus. This ministry is leading the communications, a multidisciplinary, multi-sectorial communications team on the coronavirus disease, which has posed a major global existential threat. So, this is a call to arms. His Excellency had said that when he visited the Freetown International Airport, when he visited Balamoya, and when he visited the 34 military hospital. This is a call to arms. This is for all Sierra Leoneans to rally. We have put the necessary mechanisms in place as a government within our powers. But this is not a war that is going to be won by government alone. It requires all hands on deck. So let me use this opportunity to rally the troops, to call on you as members of the media to do your bits, to make your contribution like you've always done in moments like this, to ensuring that, number one, we keep coronavirus out of Sierra Leone, and in the most unlikely event it gets here, we work together to ensure that it does not spread. We contain it to its barest impact. Right? This is very, very important. So this requires a Sierra Leonean approach. It is not an SLPP thing. It is not an APC thing. This is an existential threat to humanity. Even very advanced, global economies are finding it difficult. Already, travels have been constrained to the barest minimum. Right? Official travels around the world. Some governments have even shut official travels down. We may not have said it in many words, but nobody has traveled for the longest time that I know. So it's going to definitely have economic and other impacts. But in coming days or so, I will get the Ministry of Finance to talk to us about the potential impacts of Ebola. But even as laymen, before now we know people who go to China, to Turkey, and all these places. Right? It's been a while now, many have not traveled. That's obviously going to have impact on many things. In the US, the Dow Jones is crashing. Around the world, the finance markets are taking quite a beating. This is a serious issue. It is a Sierra Leonean thing. So this is a return to the days of watch your neighbor. If you see somebody manifesting some of the symptoms, you don't want to say it, you can just call somebody. 117 is up and alive. It's up and kicking, right? Call 117 and you can be sure you'll be rescued. Because we have to get it right. Right? A chain is as strong as its weakest link. Let us together step up the communications. In coming days and weeks, well, yesterday we have ordained my Deputy Minister, Madam Manadi Gobe Kamara. She will be the official spokesperson in this fight against the coronavirus disease. I know many people are sick and tired of my face. They don't want to hear my croaky voice. So giving you a lady who has, who has a voice you might want to listen one more time. Yeah. Okay, this was not meant to be, an elastic press conference. Let us allow some opportunity for questions. Today we will not allow any jaw-breaking, bear-twisting questions. So for those of you who have those, you keep them for the regular press briefings. But don't worry, that's on the light side. As long as the questions are well thought through, you can ask them. If we can't answer, they will bring the competent authorities next time to so do. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here again.
As another listen to the Deputy Minister of Information and Communication, Madam Amadi Gobe, as he give update about government activities and also talk about today's briefing purpose. And inside the press briefing today, the Minister of Information and Communication, Wena Mohamed Rahman Soare, talk about the National Communication Act and also talk about the meeting where the ministry began with communication companies them in the country. Me wake up with this program to una today. Me your name na Aissatou Smile say. Until we meet again to another press briefing, I say, tata.